Denny Hamlin is furious at NASCAR and Hendrick Motorsports. One team and manufacturer are noticeably absent from the ceremonies as NASCAR celebrates its 75th anniversary with drivers and officials ringing the stock exchange bell. Which team and manufacturer are missing, and how will NASCAR explain this? Let's find out. Hello NASCAR fam, and welcome back to NASCAR Live. But before we begin, please subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. And let's begin. This year marks the 75th anniversary of NASCAR. Prior to the start of the 2023 season, the organization has been highlighting the milestone as part of the Diamond Anniversary celebration, which will involve a number of noteworthy events throughout the year. In attendance this week to ring the closing bell at the New York Stock Exchange were NASCAR President Steve Phelps, Jeff Gordon, and a number of other drivers. Despite the fact that everyone seemed to be having fun, it was difficult to ignore the fact that one team and one manufacturer were missing from the celebrations. Everyone should take a moment to consider the historic legacy of NASCAR and how far it's come as the 75th season of the sport gets underway. The fact that it all began on the beaches of Daytona and eventually developed into the well-known sport and multi-million-dollar industry it is today is a pretty amazing narrative. The sanctioning body will celebrate the historic occasion with supporters all throughout the year in remembrance of that rich history. Fans already got a taste of it at the start of the year when NASCAR took part in the Rose Bowl procession with a float that featured the legendary icon Richard Petty and Rajah Caruth, a Rookie Truck Series driver who represented the sport's past and future, respectively. NASCAR had a number of representatives at the New York Stock Exchange this week as part of its anniversary celebrations, including its president Steve Phelps, Jeff Gordon, vice chairman of Hendrick Motorsports and member of the Hall of Fame, as well as drivers like Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, and Daniel Suarez. The moment when all the NASCAR dignitaries stood above the exchange floor and applauded as Phelps rang the closing bell was the highlight of the visit. Phelps, Gordon, and Elliott also participated in an interview for NYSE Floor Talk, a program that speaks with visitors to the exchange and discusses their businesses. No one will hold it against NASCAR executives to try to market the company, and the 75th anniversary is the ideal time to do so by using different channels, or in this case streets, like Wall Street and the New York Stock Exchange. But you'd also imagine that considerable thought would be given to the optics, much like NASCAR did when choosing Petty and Caruth for the Rose Bowl parade. With Elliott and Gordon joined by Suarez from Trackhouse Racing, Chevrolet and Hendrick Motorsports had a strong presence in New York. The sole representative for Ford and Team Penske was Ryan Blaney. Any driver from Toyota and Joe Gibbs Racing was conspicuously absent. Perhaps all the drivers at JGR and 2311 Racing had prior commitments. No matter how you cut it, it wasn't a good look, especially in light of the fact that Denny Hamlin had previously criticized NASCAR for what he perceived to be preferential treatment of HMS by working exclusively with the company on its Garage 56 project car, which is NASCAR's special entry for the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 2023. Conspiracy theorists unite together. There was probably no malice on the part of NASCAR, even if there were 2 HMS reps and none from Toyota or JGR in New York. But as the saying goes, reality is only as perceived. And in this instance, it looks like NASCAR is once again favoring Hendrick. And maybe, in the grand scheme of things, simply another intriguing narrative turn added to the ever-developing NASCAR story that is 75 years old and counting. Meanwhile, when Jimmie Johnson climbed back into a stock car on January 24th as part of a test session at Phoenix Raceway, everything in the racing world seemed to be going according to plan. In the 807 days since his last start in the NASCAR Cup Series, which he stopped competing in on a regular basis in 2020, a lot has changed. After competing in the NTT IndyCar Series for 2 years, the 7-time champion made the official switch to co-owner of Legacy Motor Club, formerly Petty GMS Racing, in November 2022. Johnson must now become comfortable with the next-gen vehicle in order to be ready for his 5 races this season. Johnson tested under NASCAR Select Driver Orientation Testing rules, which place restrictions on the team's ability to use more than 3 sets of tires and the amount of data that can be gathered at a track where he won't be competing in 2023. The 7-time winner also completed circuits around the 1-mile triangular track in the 2022 layout to make up some lost time, as the other competitors experimented with several changes to the current short track package for this season. The goal of this test was to accustom the 47-year-old to all the changes that have taken place since Johnson's final NASCAR appearance and the debut of a stock car that is vastly different from what he drove before. But he chose to go after speed rather than comfort, in the manner of a great champion. Johnson and the number 84 crew were delighted with their speed in their next-gen debut and thought they were keeping up with the 6 full-time drivers there, despite timing and scoring not being made public. "It's been nice to be back in my wheelhouse," Johnson said. "Today I think the 5th or 6th time was my fastest time in the car. To be able to be on pace with the group that quick, it was nice to have that to fall back on, and really instinctively drive the car instead of worrying about every little detail and where I put the car and how to use the pedals and the wheel like I've been doing in IndyCar the last 2 years. Casey Mears, a longtime friend and former colleague of Johnson's, who now resides in Scottsdale, Arizona, was working with the number 84 crew. Like the rest of the racing community, Mears was excited to see the 7-time champion back in a NASCAR stock car, but he also viewed this as a fantastic chance to collaborate with his friend in a positive way. Mears, who made more than 50 starts in IndyCar and Indy Lights, thinks Johnson's 2 years in the open wheel series and away from NASCAR helped him pick up speed pretty fast because of the new sequential gearbox in the 7th generation stock car and identical tire sidewalls. Speaking with him revealed some subtle differences between this new car and the previous NASCAR vehicles he has driven, Mears noted. If he had simply sat out the previous 2 years before returning, he could have been a little rustier, but he jumped back in and was immediately up to speed. He exuded a strong sense of comfort and excitement about the new opportunity, both in terms of ownership and racing. Although Johnson did find some similarities between the Gen 7 car's driving style and that of an Indy car, he attributed his ability to adapt to the simulator's important training. Johnson understands that actual seat time is still superior, even with the extreme position of augmented reality resources. After making his initial run, working through shifting was one of Johnson's major obstacles. In an intriguing turn of events, 2023 Rookie of the Year candidate Noah Gragson took the initiative and gave the 7-time champion and his new boss guidance on how to deal with the different ways the next-gen car operates. "We were really talking about pit road and how you have to use your timing because it's a lot different," according to Gragson. "You used to be able to bump it into neutral and the left foot brake into the pit box. Now you have to clutch it with your left foot, clutch it, right foot brake, so just kind of walk him through that because I have a little experience." It was pretty cool to see his progression throughout the day. We're all just trying to learn together and work together. Johnson was appreciative of Gragson's advice since it helped him overcome some of his morning challenges and gave him peace of mind over how to drive the car safely. "My first outing, I'm glad no one was really paying attention to what I was doing on the straightaways because I had a hard time finding the upshift and then the downshift timing," Johnson stated. "Once you're in the turn and loaded up, the car drives really nice. But the drivetrain bump stops, aero platform, steering assembly, all that's going on, the car is kind of tricky on the straightaways. I thought I was doing everything wrong, and I just came to find out it's part of the way this car drives." Not only the 7-time NASCAR champion, but other drivers have had trouble shifting in next-gen vehicles. After switching back to the H-pattern method of shifting, Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin, and Kevin Harvick all ran with difficulties throughout the 2022 season. Johnson's track time in Phoenix came to an early end when he used up all 3 of his sets of tires with an hour left in the test. On the high banks of Daytona International Speedway, where he'll try to qualify for the Great American Race, the 7-time champion will likely put on a next-gen vehicle for the next time. On Johnson's 5-race schedule, the Daytona 500 is the only event that has been confirmed so far, but he anticipates having more information in the coming weeks about the other competitions. The Indy 500 and Coca-Cola 600 double are most likely going to have to wait another year, Johnson told reporters, adding that he thinks the door is probably shut on IndyCar for 2023. After contributing to the Garage 56 Cars development this winter, he's still hoping to be invited to compete in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. On the other hand, in 2024, Kyle Larson's scheduled to compete in both the Coca-Cola 600 and the Indy 500 for IndyCar. But before that, could someone else try the Memorial Day double? As a competitor in both the Coca-Cola 600 of NASCAR and the Indy 500 of IndyCar on the same day at Charlotte Motor Speedway and Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Kyle Larson has long been considered a likely candidate to run the Memorial Day double. The 30-year-old native of Elk Grove, California, finally secured a deal, but it was for the next year. Rick Hendrick will assist Larson as he competes for Arrow McLaren and a Chevrolet at the 108th edition of the Indianapolis 500 in May. Larson currently races the number 5 Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet in the NASCAR Cup Series. The agreement positions him to attempt the Memorial Day double for the first time since 2014 and as the 5th driver overall. Can he actually become the 6th if it happens? There are less and fewer attempts at the Memorial Day double. 4 different drivers attempted 9 attempts between 1994 and 2004, although one of them, Davy Jones, was unsuccessful in 1995 in his bid to make the Coca-Cola 600 field. It was tried by Robbie Gordon in 1997, 2000, 2002, 2003, and 2004, Tony Stewart in 1999, and John Andretti in 1999 and 2001. The only one to attempt it since then is Kurt Busch, who did so in 2014. There have been rumors that a few drivers may be performing the Memorial Day double. Kyle Busch is in a position similar to that of Kyle Larson in that he has been considered a potential to do it for a number of years. In fact, he was in talks with Arrow McLaren to do it in 2023 before they decided to go with experience and chose 2013 Indy 500 champion Tony Kanaan. But given that Busch already competes in both IndyCar and NASCAR, is there a driver that is an even more likely Indy 500 Coke 600 double candidate? From 2002 to 2020, Jimmy Johnson competed for Hendrick Motorsports for 19 seasons in the Cup Series on a full-time basis before switching to the IndyCar Series in 2021. For Chip Ganassi Racing that year, he only participated in the road and street course competitions. However, in 2022, he made his Indy 500 debut and went pro. Johnson declared shortly after the 2022 IndyCar season finished that he would not be returning to the series full-time in 2023. He then declared that he would be returning to the Cup Series as a part-time driver and co-owner of Petty GMS Motorsports, now the Legacy Motor Club. His plan for 2023 hasn't been finalized, beyond his effort to qualify for the Daytona 500, so he might conceivably run the Coca-Cola 600. And that ends today's episode. We sincerely hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to see even more of our incredible videos.